Hey, real estate besties. Today is Tuesday, and around here, that means that we are answering your burning questions. Now, I don't care if it's about a deal that you're working, just a question on how to organize something in your business, or if you just want to dish with your good real estate bestie, I am here to answer your questions. Now, if you have a question, head on over to rosemarylewis.com/ask. And you will be able to leave a voicemail and I will answer your question on the podcast. Let's get into our question for today. Well, hello there, besties. Okay, so normally on Tuesdays we do a Q&A, but I'm going to switch it up just a little bit because today is not just any old ordinary Tuesday, but it is your bestie's birthday. Now, I know a couple of weeks ago we celebrated the birthday of our podcast, but it is my actual birthday on the day that this recording is coming out. September 26th, I am entering into what I have laughingly referred to as my George W. Bush year. I'm 43 years old. It's a whole long story behind that, y'all. Last year, when my husband turned 44, he said it was his Obama year, and I have just been on a tangent about that. So I'm in my George W. Bush year, 43 years old, and I was just sitting here thinking, y'all, how grateful I am. I literally have just I'm wrapping up my quiet time with the Lord. And I was like, I have to just share something with my besties because a lot of times there are things in our lives, there are experiences that we have had that have stopped us, I guess, or that are standing in the way from us being who we are to getting to who we want to be. So today's Q&A honestly is a question that I want to ask you. And that is what, honestly, when you dig deep, when you look at your life, when you look at just where you are, when you look at what's stumbling you, what's getting in the way? It's interesting that I'm thinking about this and I'm having this thought on my birthday because ironically, y'all, I was not a fan of birthdays. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm always turning up for my birthday. As a matter of fact, probably about on a plane to out of town right now as you're listening to this podcast, especially if you're listening to it on my birthday. But I've often, for as long as I can remember, since my 14th birthday, I've really struggled with birthdays. And not only with birthdays, but I've struggled with milestones. I've struggled with success. I've struggled with these different things in life that one should be really excited about, like having babies and getting married and buying houses, and in part because of what I experienced. So I don't know if I've shared quite on the podcast, but I will briefly share with you all that I have experienced. I know that you all are familiar with my most recent losses with my friend Kat and with my mom, but I don't know if I've quite broken down the fact that I've actually experienced loss of 6 of my siblings, 4 of which passed away before they were 35 years old and when I was really young. Honestly, before I was born in September of 1980. In January of 1980, my mother buried her baby girl at the time. It was her baby girl before I was born. Her name was Cecilia. She passed away from bone marrow cancer when she was 17. Then when I was 8 years old, my sister Rotanza passed away from breast cancer. She was 29. A couple of years after that, my brother Kovan was murdered on the streets of Chicago when he was 15. When I was 14, my other brother, Roosevelt, passed away from cancer when he was 34. And then I have a sister the very next day after my brother's funeral. She passed away from a brain aneurysm. And that was a lot of trauma, obviously. But let me tell you what it did for me. Besides being young and not truly processing what losing them was, especially my brother who was closer in age to me, the one who was murdered. My other siblings, for the most part, they had some sort of sickness. So in some ways, we were able to prepare our hearts for their passing, but it wasn't that way with Kovan. And I said I was going to do this without crying, and I am. But what that did for me, and I didn't realize it, is that the enemy, and I'm talking about the devil here, he used what I experienced with my siblings to convince me that living was just enough. And for a long time, I had something in me that I knew that God was calling me to just not be ordinary, or what I consider to be ordinary. But even being in relationship with the Lord was just scary. And I didn't feel like I deserved that. And that was getting in my way, right? That was getting in my way. Just all of these thoughts, this survival guilt, this wondering, God, why did you allow me to be here when they could not? Made me feel so guilty and, just so undeserving of any good thing the Lord would put in my life. And as a result, I wanted to stay stagnant. I stayed stuck for a long time. And I was like that, if you read the story of talents, I was like that guy who buried his talents because I was just so afraid of what would happen if I tried to use them. But luckily, right, you listen to this podcast. So luckily and gratefully, and no, I wasn't lucky. Let me take that back. Have you heard that song? I'm not lucky, I'm loved. God lovingly nudged me and put me in different environments and put me in different situations where not only have I had opportunities to unpack the trauma of my childhood, the trauma of loss, the trauma of grief. And you know that this grief monkey has even shown up again in adult life. But not only did I have the opportunity to unpack that, but I also have had the opportunity to get closer with God and first understand, okay, to my knowledge, all my brothers and sisters were believers. So what that means is that they're not worried about anything that I am doing on this earth because they have received the ultimate reward. They're free from sickness. They're free from pain. They're free from trauma. Any of the things that we still have to deal with because I'm still on this earth. They don't have that anymore. So it's not like they were robbed of anything. For a long time, I thought they were robbed. But now I know that they just got, their well done earlier, right? But then on the flip side, I'm still here. So if we are here, y'all, we have a responsibility to do everything that God is calling us to do here, whether that's sell houses, whether that's speak on stages, whether that's write books, look, whether that's start your cupcake business, like whatever God has put into your heart, we have a responsibility to do it. But first, we have to be honest about what lies the enemy is telling us and what is he doing to try to stop you. And for me, every birthday for a long time was sad. You can ask my husband, like it looked like I'm kicking it on the outside, but on the inside, I was really struggling because I was convinced that I was undeserving and that put me in a shell. So that's my question to you today is what's stopping you, right? What's on the other side of what you're being called to do? And maybe that looks like going to therapy. Maybe that looks like getting counseling at church. Maybe that looks like, just being honest and having some tough conversations about what is the thing in between your ears that the enemy is planting in your mind to stop you from getting to the other side. And I'm here to tell you that, I was just in my quiet time and I was sitting and I was thinking about my birthday. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited. I'm excited about the next year. I'm excited about what God will do. I'm excited about what he has placed in my heart. And honestly, what he's placed in my heart is to serve y'all. Like right now, real estate bestie, my besties are my assignment because I know that the freedom that I have felt not only through Christ Jesus, but through Christ Jesus, learning how to do business and how to support and how to step out of my comfort zone and how to free myself like that. I want you all to feel that as well. And I'm committed to putting it all on the table, right? This next year and beyond to make sure that I am encouraging you and creating spaces for you to do so. So I just wanted to ask you a question. Again, what's stopping you? And whatever is stopping you, I want you to be honest with yourself and honest with God about how you're going to get past whatever that is standing in your way. So cheers to 43 years, my George W. Bush year and all. I am just so grateful for each and every one of you. You definitely being a part of my life has made this year and will make the next year so much sweeter. And I just can't wait to continue to grow with you besties. Happy birthday to me. Bye, friends.